Hey, this is Dre with Yourself.Podcast, and I'm glad to see everyone here and listening in. Hopefully, you are listening all over the country and are sharing out this podcast, and hopefully, even coming to terms with being a guest sometime on our podcast. Our guest today is Nicole, and we will be discussing the characteristics that are needed to kind of bring a new life into your or new characteristics, a change in maybe the way you live your life to become a new you. And what the steps are, and if you have any grief or anxiety or anger towards that, or if it surfaces any of that. So we're gonna dive right in with Nicole. And I'm so glad that you agreed to be on the podcast. Thank you so much for your time.
Of
I
course.
I know your time is very valuable, and I certainly appreciate it very much. Um, so I guess we'll just dive right in, and I kind of want to, the subject matter is quite interesting because I think I've gone through some of these changes that we kind of prepared for to discuss today. So, um, when did you notice in your life that you needed a change? Was it a complete change, or was it like a 180 change, or was it just like little parts of yourself?
Oh, it was I would say complete change would probably be the best way to describe it. And it wasn't a breakdown or anything like that. It was a slow misalignment over a number of years. And then me coming to terms with realizing that that alignment existed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was about being very functional, but not necessarily fulfilled. I was very successful, but also very restless. And productive too, always was productive, but had this feeling of disconnection always looming over me. And it's not like anything in particular was wrong, which is what made it very, very confusing. Um, I kept thinking, maybe I just need a vacation. And that's the answer to everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we just need to plan a vacation. But really, what I really needed was a complete alignment and not like a chiropractic alignment, just a life alignment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't know, I realized I was performing a role very well, but I wasn't living inside of that role, if that makes sense.
So you were kind of like maybe watching your life on the sidelines kind of go by without, or having like an emptiness.
Yeah, like going through the motions, but lacking that fulfillment feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like doing the same thing every day, reporting to the job, attending to the things that I needed to do, collecting the payment for that, paying my bills, and then the entire cycle repeats, right? So just the normal day to day thing, something about it didn't feel right to me. Like I knew I could have been doing a lot more. I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't know what that was.
And um, when you realized that you were needing a change, how did that make you feel?
Scared. I think scared is probably the first emotion that most people feel when the word change is even mentioned, because just as humans, we tend to steer away from change and stick with the norm and be comfortable, right? The dangerous
Mm-hmm.
c word. um so yeah, overall very scared, anxious a little bit, just because the fear of the unknown, and what does this mean, where am I going, what am I supposed to be doing. And then grief kind of came in a little bit in that initial moment, oddly enough, because I knew, well, something has to change. I'm anxious about what that is because I don't know what it is. And then, am I going to be different on the other side of this? Who is this going to impact? Like, what am I going to lose? Right? That
Mm-hmm.
word of loss is always so very important to people.
Yeah, you think that you're gonna. Do you think that you were afraid of losing certain people in your life, or do you think that those people would cast judgment on you if you? Because a lot of people, when they change, their lifestyle or certain characteristics about themselves. Um, like myself, being a recovering addict, I noticed that I had to change who I hung out with, change my
Hmm.
circle of friends. And that was kind of scary because I found myself in a very lonely place because those were the only friends I had, or quote unquote, thought that I had, you know?
Hmm.
And so they're not really friends if they're only willing to hang out with you while you're engaging in certain substances or whatever. Do you feel that you went through that, like with your circle of friends? Did they cast judgment on you? Did you lose friends?
I did. And colleagues. So friends and colleagues, can be one and the same, or they can be very different. I've had people in my life that are both, which is a rare occurrence. But yeah, it was a fear of losing what I knew my life to be at that time, in that moment, and who was present
Mm-hmm.
in my life in that moment, right? And again, it goes back to that word change. I mean, anytime you know a change is coming, something's going to be lost, but then also things are going to be gained too.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know what that is until you're on the other side of it. So,
Yeah, that's true. Do you think that you had grief without blaming yourself? Or do you think that you look back and say, face palm, I did this, I did that, why did I act that way? Why did I, do you think that you, well, I guess grief is something different. Grief is something that you're evolving and trying to get through. But I guess what I'm asking is, did you blame yourself for the things that you were grieving?
I mean, grief surprises you because everybody handles it differently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because something ended violently or something ended internally. So I didn't expect the grief. It was actually a surprise, which is why I said that word, grief surprises you, because it did surprise me. Um, I think what I grieved was the predictability, the stability, and the predictability. I grieved the version of me that felt safe because I had structure. Um, I grieved potentially being the responsible one in a defined way, because that's what I was. Is whatever change is about to happen going to impact me being the responsible party to family, my partner at
Mm-hmm.
the time, friends, things like that. So I think that you can grieve an identity even if you were the one who chose to leave it,
Mm-hmm.
which is where
That's,
I was. I was already grieving old Nicole, and then feeling anxious about what the new version of me was about to look like. But I also felt very ready. So I also had this courage behind me and determination to go after whatever was in my mind saying to change, if
right,
that makes
right.
sense.
Yeah.
It's like it was a whirlwind of emotions at that time. And sometimes it still kind of is 5 years later. There's days where I'm like, I look back and I'm like, I can't believe that I actually made a change that significant. And I did lose a lot along the way, for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, but I also gained a lot. So it's one of those, I don't know, strange places to be in. And what most people don't do is they do not make the change. So they know there needs to be one, but they are too scared and too afraid of that unknown road,
Mm-hmm.
that they're not willing to put the work in to lay the pavement down
Yeah.
to make a nice smooth transition to where they want to go.
Yeah, and I find that that's mostly with people who suffer with uh, anger issues, substance issues, domestic violence issues, which is very difficult to get yourself out of. Um, do you think that it would be possible for you to love, still show love and empathy to who you used to be as opposed to who you are now? Do you think that you would, you now, do you feel love for that person that you were?
Yes, actually, I do because I look back and I'm like, that person, they always say, I mean, I always hear, you know, what would you say to your childhood self when you think back to your childhood, being the adult you are now? If the child of you knew what was where your life would end up, what would you say? And it's a really powerful thing to think about because it's really about integration, not erasure.
Mm,
It's, reinvention isn't about deleting your past self. It's about integrating her. So what I did was I took the version I was and just integrated myself into a new being, a new entity, a new mindset. And I've always respected who I was because I know deep down who I am. And I just did what I needed to survive, essentially,
right.
right? And that old version of me really valued security because I'd always been in survival mode to
Mm-hmm.
one extent or another, whether it's but work, trying to make a living or keeping a relationship together or keeping a family from falling apart or trying to fix family issues. So that old version of me really valued security, and the new version valued alignment. And I think both of them go kind of hand in hand in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not enemies, so to speak, right? It's what creates the evolution.
Right. Right. Um, how do you that kind of answers my next question. Stability was not something that you chose. Stability was something that you kept running after
Hmm.
because
Always.
because of circumstances, like you said, with family or relationships or work. Um, do you think that at one point that you felt locked into feeling that way because of circumstances? Or did you feel that you could, did you have the forethought of saying, someday I'm going to get out of this and I won't be afraid of not having security or stability?
Hmm. Absolutely. It's weird because a part of me always knew I'd be okay in some way, whatever that means, right? Because in life, the way I look at it is you've got three key pillars in life. You've got your friends, you've got your family, and you've got your career. Those are the three main things that if one of those things is off, it generally makes somebody claim to be an unhappy person or upset
Mm-hmm.
about something, right? But when those three things are in alignment, that's what I consider stability. Is you've got a great circle of friends, you have a great career, and your family is solid. And growing up, my family was not stable.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always seeking to fulfill that piece of the three, right? Of the triangle. So it's both chosen and conditioned because when I was a kid growing up, I always wanted, I wanted to just be safe and everything be okay all the time. I was the peacemaker, so to speak, right? But then as I got older, and I was praised for being responsible all the time, but not just by family, but by friends too. Like it, it was a constant thing. It was that structure that I had created to get people to realize that about me or make those comments. Um, it felt safe, and predictability felt almost like a form of intelligence at that point. Like I could do. I don't know if this makes sense, but like I could do anything because now I have my strong triangle, right? But something is off outside of that. So I didn't think I was necessarily locked in, but I was definitely attached. Um,
That,
if that makes sense. I
yeah,
mean, when you're,
that's interesting because it makes it sound like your instability or your unstable life did give you the feeling that inside you knew who you were and it would be okay. So, in a sense, you kind of did expect or foresee or were evolving to be self reliant,
Hmm.
uh, and to have and to make your own stability. Um, do you think that with the fear that comes when you're making those changes,
Hmm.
do you feel that um, now that you've made a lot of changes, do you still have a little bit of fear or anxiety as to like, I don't want the rug pulled up under, pulled from under me. So I need to be on top of everything all the time, in control, that sort of thing. Do you still feel some of that?
Hmm. I mean, I think that like, because I like to go back to science and a lot for a lot of things because it makes sense to me. And I think when your nervous system that we all have equates structure with safety, leaving that feels dangerous, even if it's growth, even if it's a good thing. Your system and your brain tricks you into thinking danger, 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 and you go into this fight or flight kind of way of thinking, which then creates the anxiety, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, does that answer the question? I kind of.
Yeah, no, I just, because I also grew up with like a unstable family life, um, where there was a lot of substance abuse, some domestic violence, and there was always a threat that my family would break up, in a sense. And so I was also the peacemaker in my family. And so that taught me a lot to trust my own decisions. But I didn't have the coping skills to build that like triangle that you're talking about. I didn't have the skills because I didn't know what stability was. And
Mhm.
so now that I personally feel that I know who I am, I know I know what type of person I am. Um, and I know that there's stability in my life, but we can't predict every step along the way, right, in life.
Right. Yeah.
So, but without those things that we can't predict, do you sometimes just get the feeling like, yeah, what if, do you have strong feelings of those what if something bad happens, or do you constantly feel like you're in control, or do you have to be in control all the time?
No, it's very much it's what you first said. It's that constant fear, right? And what you're referring to is essentially failure because, you know, everybody has that fear of, okay, well, what if I make this change in my life,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that change is, and it doesn't work out? Or I've glamorized it into something that it doesn't turn out to be. Or my friends think differently because they knew me as this person in this role, in this identity, and now I'm trying to move into a different identity. And what are they going to think about that? Right. And it's that's where a lot of people just stay in their comfort zone and don't really make a change because failure is temporary. Identity collapse feels destabilizing to you as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So the scariest part of any of this shouldn't be, in my mind, it shouldn't be failing. It's really asking yourself, and this is what I asked myself, was who am I without this
Mm-hmm.
role, this person that I was before? Um, and really getting to understand who you are. Because when you remove the title, and whatever title it is, right, whether it's husband, wife, vice president, whatever the title is, when you remove it, you still have to confront your actual self.
Mm-hmm.
And so the structure told me who I was. I want that. But without it, I had to decide, who am I? Can I handle that? Can I take that kind of pressure on? Can I figure it out? Can I kind of fix the plane as it's flying in the air? Um, and the answer to that was yes, because the push that I felt was so overwhelming that I just knew, regardless of how many times I fail along the way, it's going to work out, because it always has.
Hmm.
It always has. Things have always worked out for me. They've been okay. They've been very, very painful and rocky, of course. But when you look back, I think, dang, if I hadn't gone through that, I would not be where I was today. And I'm so grateful for where I am today. So it really comes down to a person by person experience, because,
Yeah.
like I said, so many people, and I know so many people um, around my age, who I fear are going to be miserable or unhappy or unsatisfied or unfulfilled, because they're not willing to kind of put the work in. And it does take work. That's what it all comes down to. If you're constantly putting the work in, the anxiety goes away. If I get up every day and I have a plan and I have some mind, view into, okay, what am I going to do today? What's going to make me feel fulfilled? And for me, that's a lot of things. And if I can get to the end of the day, have dinner with my spouse, and feel fulfilled, it's because I got through all those things in the day. And the anxiety had no time to bother me, because I was busy just forging ahead.
Because you have a routine that you planned.
Yeah.
That's your,
Structure.
yeah, structure. And well, routine, I guess, would play a part in that too, because it does help build your structure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in while you were talking about that, um, did your self worth? Because I would assume that when you were unhappy in whether it was a relationship or job or family, did it affect your self worth negatively? And do you think that now your self worth is, uh, you view it more highly, you view yourself highly? Um, is your self worth at a better place now?
I think there's always room for evolution with self worth. But for me personally, I always knew, even from a young childhood age, I knew what my self worth was amidst all the chaos that I was living with at that time, watching my parents struggle and fight and just barely scrape by. I
Mm-hmm.
knew that's not going to be me. There's no way. There's not going to be me. Why? Not because anybody's coming to save me, because guess what? No one's coming to save you. But because I know what my self worth is, and as long as I stick to that, then I'm going to get through and come out on the other side a better person with a stronger identity, and just kind of keep, rewriting versions of myself, right? It's like if you have a script, a screen, like you've done screenwriting. It's like
Mm-hmm.
if you have that, it's constantly revamping the story. You're constantly trying to, improve it or evolve in different ways and grow. And those are all the things that I'm mentioning before that I think a lot of people, it terrifies them. Growth terrifies people. I don't know why, because it may be hard to get there, but on the other side, I mean, the benefits far outweigh the risks to me. I've always been, though, and I'll have to caveat with this, I've always been a risk taker to an extent. I will do whatever it takes to make myself happy or to fulfill something in my life that's missing, no matter what the cost of that is. I'll do it. And a lot of people don't share that same view. They think I've been told I'm crazy before, or that's way too risky, or what if you fail? What if I do fail? What if
Mm-hmm.
I do? You learn from it, you tweak it, you rewrite the script, and you keep going. So, um, yeah, that's
That,
just, I don't know, that's the mindset I've always had.
That brings me, you know, that makes me think of where when I don't know if it's when you leave home or what happens, but um, I always felt that by a certain age I had to have certain things done in my
Ah,
life,
yes.
and so um, I thought I had it in my 20s thinking, oh, okay, by 35, I'll be working in the Hollywood industry. I will be a successful screenwriter. I will be living in Newport Beach, California. I'll have my nice little 2-bedroom beach home, my little yard, and my dog, and whoever I'm with, and then life happens, right?
Hmm.
And and then you throw in any type of addiction that you may have. Unfortunately, I had substance abuse addiction. And I also had what I noticed was what I call relationship addiction.
Hmm.
There was not a day in my life where I was a single, just a single girl walking through life trying to figure it out. I always was in a relationship because I had fear of abandonment issues, and I just I didn't know how to create that self structure, that that feeling of, hey, I can create my own security. Um, what do you think that your support system is now? And I think that's what I lacked was a support system.
Hmm.
And I think that's why people are afraid of that change that you're talking about,
Yeah.
because they feel like, well, I'm going to be alone in this change. Nobody's going to help me out. Like you said, nobody's coming to save you.
Yep.
You have to, I hate to use this reference because I don't speak about religion or politics on this podcast, but there is one reference that I always go back to, that when Moses walked across the Red Sea,
Hmm.
it opened up, but what did Moses have to do? He had to take the step in order
Yeah.
to have that faith that things were going to work out and that he was going to be able to walk through and walk his people through. So
Hmm.
um, I think that's the reason why people don't have faith in themselves, because they don't believe that you do have to take that first step to equal your self-worth, to equal that stability that you're looking for. So
Yeah.
what new supports do you feel replaced all of those fears, all of that, like doing the 180 change, and what do you find supports that now in your new life?
First and foremost, going all in on myself. Because again, it's like we've just said, nobody's coming to save any of us. And so it all comes back to that self worth question. Do you value yourself enough? Do you see yourself worthy enough to make this step or whatever that step is?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't see it, then you need to lean on resources to help you with that. And so what I did was when I had moments of doubt or fear, anxiety, all the things that are totally normal for humans to have. Even the strongest of people experience those emotions and those doubts. And there's been how many millions of books written about it. And so that's what I go back to is reminding myself, journaling, key points about who I am, who I want to become, who I'm continuing to become. Even write down things like what you don't want to be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I leaned heavily on really like good authors and books that I've read, people that I look up to, concepts that I'm interested in, things like that to remind myself like I'm not the only one on the planet with anxiety or fear. Like
Mm-hmm.
literally everybody has this.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how you use it. And what I figured out for me was I have to use it as a tool. I have to take the fear and face it head on and use it as a tool to make any sort of move or change or difference or tweak to the story, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
because it goes across a lot of different things in life. It's not just work and relationships and family, it's a lot of stuff. And so I'm at a point in my life now where I just don't put up with certain thoughts and behaviors that I once used to have, which was holding me back for a number of years. Oh, just stick with the comfort. Don't make any changes. Everything will be fine. It's harder to, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, all that stuff, right?
Don't rock the
Um,
boat. Don't rock the boat kind of
don't
mentality.
rock the
Yeah,
boat.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, no, wait. Uh, there's a saying that my mom would always say, and my grandma had it on her fridge, and I looked up to her too. And it was like, I was born an original and I won't die a copy.
Mm.
So why do I, okay, I can take what all these people are saying, their opinions on stuff. It's not their life though. When you're talking about your life and we're only here for a short amount of time, one time, why would you not want to make that bold move ahead and take that risk? Or so I just have to, I go back to, journaling. I have a huge like fat journal right here that I go and I flip through it and I
Yeah.
remind myself, where was my mindset a year ago? What, in February of 2025, where was my mindset? And I go back and I look at what I wrote and I'm like, wow, I've come so far since then. I don't even believe that statement anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you
That's
just have to
incredible.
keep rewriting the story.
That's very incredible because um, people don't understand. Even the people that are still stuck in their cycle,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they don't understand that the hardship that they've been through. If they were just to look back and say, "Oh, I have made it this far," even though it's been up climb the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
you know a lot of times we feel like Kung Fu Panda when he's walking up the stairs and he's like,
Yeah.
oh, and then he looks down, he's like, I've gone 3 steps up. But that's 3 steps higher
Mm-hmm.
than you were before, right? And
Right.
so for me, I think that the way because I struggle a lot with anxiety, and I don't even recognize all of my triggers yet. I just, it feels just like yesterday when I was diagnosed, but it made sense why I had an anxiety. And it was because a lot of it was because I didn't have a stable upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always sudden moves that we had to make. There was a presence in my life um, that I was a subject to abuse, and that person was an opportunist.
Mm-hmm.
So that meant there was no pattern. It could happen at any time. It could happen in the garage. It could happen in the kitchen. It could happen with people just around, and I was being abused.
Mm-hmm.
And so um, there was no like, well, if I'm in this little room, I know I'll be safe. No, because there was no safety there. So, um, what do you think um, that you would go back and tell yourself when you were frozen in that comfort zone, when you were saying to yourself, I don't want to rock the boat, I will just stay in this relationship, or I will stay in this job, or I will continue my family dynamic? What courageous words of or even loving words would you say to your old self?
Um, I'd probably say you can honor who you were without staying her, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
honor who you were, but don't stay that person. And then I'd also say it's going to be all good. It's going to be fine because it is one way or another. Things work out. You put the work in. You have the intention behind it, and it still comes back to mindset too. Because I don't know where my thought was going with that, but again, back to the stability thing is like same as you in childhood. I had no real stability here and there with certain people, like grandparents and stuff. I felt like was safe because there was no drama. But then when I came home, it was like, what's going to happen today?
Yeah, yeah,
So it's always like being in a fight or flight mode.
right.
But I would still, tell my former self, like, just freaking do it. Just do it. Stop overthinking it. Because for a long time, it took me until age 40 to make this change we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
This was 5 years ago. I'm not trying to date myself by any means, but people think back to what you said earlier. You thought by age 35 you're going to be in a certain place with a certain career and all the things, and you had all that visual in your head, right? It couldn't be the more opposite truth. I mean, life is what it is, and you can try to plan as much as you want, but life will happen, and you just have to roll with the punches. Um, and I just think that I would still tell myself, just stop overthinking it and move forward. Because I also feel like I wasted a lot of time in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
especially on the career forefront. And I've made comments before to friends and stuff like, dang, I can't imagine like where I'd be if I had made the change even 10, 15 years ago versus 5, where would I be? And that's not the way to look at it. That's not the way to look at it. The way to look at it is no, because everything had to happen to get you to where you are now. And you are where you should be. And it's weird too. I don't know if this happens to you, but every now and then I get these little subtle clues or thoughts or something happens where I'm like, it's almost like the universe is reminding me that I am where I should be.
Mm-hmm.
I can't explain it. I'm trying to think of an example and I can't come up with one right this second, but pay attention to things like that is what I would tell people is like, pay attention to, are there certain things that are validating the decision that you made, even if it was a hard one? And if your intuition is saying, okay, I'm where I should be, then trust everything else is going to fall into place.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the sayings that I stick to a lot is, and I don't know, I don't remember where I heard it, but I heard it a long time ago. Every step you've taken in life has led you to this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you ended up in a troublesome situation, uh, health wise, uh, being in jail, in trouble, being in
Mm-hmm.
a locked up relationship that you feel completely empty or unseen or unheard, every step that you've made there, and it's not always your own fault because
No.
you've applied your circumstances and you've learned those circumstances, and you've also taught yourself that those circumstances will lead me on this path. But if I just tweak it, like you said, tweak the story a little, I might be able to depend on myself and make something of myself and then attract the people that I need to support me
Mm-hmm.
in that good place.
Yeah.
And I think that uh, I've met people who I've spoken to in life and met in life, and also even with this podcast, where I listen to them and I think to myself, it's interesting that they mentioned that, but they're not living it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, can you tell me something that you, because you seem to, and I've known you for a long time, um, 20 plus years, and I know that we've seen each other's changes
Yeah.
in our lives, but we've always kept in touch. And I noticed I noticed the changes that you were going through, but I never felt like I needed to intervene because I always felt that you were very strong willed, even when you didn't see yourself that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell now from other times before in your past that now I see this self-confidence in you. I feel it in your voice, I see it in your face, I see it in your actions. um, and I often wonder like it sounds like what you've been doing is manifesting by writing in your journal saying these are the things I want to accomplish. And I think that manifesting, a lot of people say, "Oh, yeah, I can manifest all I want. However, right now I'm broke. I have my rent is due. I
Mm-hmm.
have zero gas in my car. I got to get to work." Manifesting, yeah, that's great. That let's dream, you know. But like I said, with opening the Red Sea, you have to take that first step, right? So what's the first step? Maybe look for, while you're working, take the bus, save some gas, do this instead of this, or, you know, um, you have to try to better yourself at some point, or else, yeah, you're going to be stuck. You're going to be, and the problem is a lot of times people get stuck in the victim mode.
Mm-hmm.
This happened because they did this, they did
Yeah.
that, instead of saying, it was me. It was me.
Yeah.
I needed to change. I chose to be with that person. I chose to get that job. I
Mm-hmm.
chose to uh, get addicted or whatever. Even though we know, as science, like you mentioned, that if you're born into addiction, your likelihood of becoming an addict is far higher than someone who isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess what do you think has come, because you make it sound quite easy. I got to tell you, in hearing you today, it
Well, let me say, first of all, we can do a whole podcast on the topic of manifesting in and of itself.
yes.
But if you do not put the work in, it's time wasted. So you have to
Hmm.
be careful with manifesting because you can sit, like you said, and dream all day long. Is that going to pay your bills? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in the victim mentality. There have been countless times that I could say, I'm the victim in this, that, and the other, and throw my entire life away, or have my life go in a very, very dark direction easily. If I had that victim mentality, oh well, I'm gonna do drugs because um, I have no other choice because I hate I hate everything around me, or I'm so miserable. And it's all about choices. And I may make it sound easy, but it's not. And I don't even mean to make it sound easy. It's just when you've gone through so much, and I've been knocked down so many times and humbled by life. I mean, that could be another podcast. So
Yeah.
when you experience things like that, it sucks in the moment, but it does build back your confidence if you choose to let it do that. If you choose to learn from it, rewrite the story, and go keep forging forward. If you can do those things, whatever that is for you, and it's not easy by any means. Nothing that I've done in the past 5, 6 years has been even remotely easy.
Yeah. I
But I
can.
feel stronger because of it. And that's why I sit here today with your interpretation of me is different than how I even feel inside. But I know that I'll get through things.
Well, no, it's not that I don't believe that um that you've changed, because I like I said, I've seen it. I feel your self-confidence, whereas I never felt it before.
Mm,
And even though maybe you thought you had it, it could have been maybe false security. I don't know, but
yeah.
you definitely put off a very self confident vibe now as opposed to the person you were even before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I talked to you then, to me, you sounded scared, you sounded
Yeah.
alone, you sounded lonely, uh, just afraid of the future, you know.
Yeah.
And now I see you with hope. I see you with um, direction. I see you self confidence, like I said, self confident, um, with a plan. And I think that you've learned along the way, like you said, everything's going to work out one way or the other. It has to, right?
Mm-hmm.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think the thing that I guess I would disagree with you on is that people sometimes don't say, well, I'm going to throw myself into substance abuse because things aren't easy or things are rough. I think you don't make that choice overnight. I think that starts gradual, you know.
Yeah. I
Just
agree with that.
just like change for the better starts.
Yeah.
It's very gradual. Um, and one of the things that I like to do with my podcast guests is one before I get into that, one question that I wanted to ask you was, we kind of talked about it a little bit before, where you said something about, what if I fail publicly?
Mm-hmm.
What 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 do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is, it goes back to social media. So I'm on social media, and because I am on it and I put certain things out about my life, not everything, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
what I choose to put out there, whether it's relationship, career, friend stuff, anything, um, people can glean an idea of what is going on in my life from a very high level. And so when I started putting out, here's the change,
Mm-hmm.
this is different, without saying that, obviously, it was, oh, I just made it very real, not just to myself, but to the world, you know?
Yeah.
I just put that out there. And now people are looking, because I know people are looking, um, and I feel sometimes like they're waiting for me to fail.
Why do you think
Um,
that they're waiting for you to fail?
certain, like, just, I don't know. I mean, I'm very intuitive, and I pick up on people's energies and vibes and their intentions
Mm-hmm.
very easily. And when somebody comes and asks me more than once, so what's your backup plan if this doesn't work out? I'm like, it's going to work out. There is no backup plan. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even think about that because I know it's going to work out. So what do you mean by that? And it makes me think they're just sitting back waiting for me to fail.
Right.
And this has happened numerous times.
So you don't think it's out of good intention of worry for them, for you, like like a good parent would say, you know, you need to go to college and get a degree, even though you want to be a musician, or even though you want to be an artist, or even if you want to get in the movie industry, whatever it is, and it's more of a creative role,
Mm-hmm.
but have a degree so you can pay the bills. Do you think that that's out of concern for you? Like, um, concern in a good way, or do you think that, like, it, I guess you basically answered my question because you said that they're sitting back waiting for you to fail. But do you honestly believe that, or do you think that it's out of concern?
I Certain people that may be out of concern, and those that are actually concerned, will phrase the question, how are things really going for you? Because again, we all portray a certain image online, And so when somebody comes to me and says, how are things really going? Like, how, how are you doing? Because a lot of people know me from past 5 years ago, like our friendship has been a long time. I've got numerous people I've been friends with for a very long time too, who know what I came from, where I'm at today. And when they, in their mind, when they see what I've done, it's like, I could never do that myself. And so when they ask me a pointed question, how are you truly doing? To me, that tells me that they actually want to know how I'm doing. They want the raw and dirty,
Right.
right? Not what I'm putting on social media. And I'll give it to them. I mean, I've had friends say, you know, tell me about tell me about this new thing that you're doing. Like, I want to know. And they're genuinely concerned and interested.
Right.
But when I don't feel that genuine interest and real positive concern, to me that tells me that they are sitting back. And you're going to have it. You're going to have that. I mean, it's going to happen. I expected it to happen almost to an extent, and it almost makes me want to prove them wrong even more.
Mm.
So it just adds fuel to my fire in a good way.
Yeah.
I take it as a good thing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
That's
sitting back and you're thinking, because I don't post hardly any of my successes online. I was number one in my brokerage in 2025. I didn't post a single thing about that. Nobody has to know that. Nobody knows that. I could have, but to me, that's kind of tacky. So I'm like, whatever. Okay, great. I'm going to do double that this year. That's my goal. And so it's funny when I get those comments from people who are from my past, who don't really keep in contact
mm-hmm.
often, and just out of the blue. So, like, I literally had what I thought was a friend from Vegas. We used to work together way back in the day. Um, Literally say to me, "So when are you going to give up this whole entrepreneurship thing?" Literally said it like that.
Yeah.
I responded with a smiley face, and that was it.
Yeah, it's funny because, like we mentioned social media, um, everything is cropped on social media. You have this little box,
Yeah.
and, it could be somebody baking a pie, and everything is, all the ingredients are there, and it leaves these little measured cups, and the
Mm-hmm.
pie, and the dough, or whatever. I have no clue what goes into making a pie, but I'm assuming. But um, what you don't see is when you expand that box, you see a kitchen that's upside down,
Yeah.
and kids running around like crazy, and
Yep.
the dog is, just chewing up the couch or whatever. And we have this false sense of idea that, oh, your life is perfect,
Mm-hmm.
because we see life on social media as a cropped, image.
Yeah.
And it's sad to know that people um, are sitting on the sidelines just waiting to see, because it's something that they can relate to. you know
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they haven't taken that step to say, well, this is what I want to do with my life, let me concentrate on that. And
Yeah.
that comes along with the time wasting, like you said before. you know
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that what you're doing is absolutely incredible. I mean, when you first told me you were getting into real estate, um, I was I was surprised, because I thought, oh, that's like selling. I just don't, I didn't know you as such a salesperson,
I'm
because
not. That's
it
I'm not.
people think about like car salesmen, or
Right.
realtors who are just after the commission per se,
Mm-hmm.
to use lack of a better word. And but from what I've seen, your growth in your endeavors is that you actually care more about um, a home as opposed to a house. So you care more about the people that are going to be happy in that home,
Hmm.
as opposed to, well, this is my next paycheck and I can just, go out and just sell whatever and be the friendly face until I don't need to be the friendly face anymore.
Hmm.
You know, I think I see you now as the opposite of that, which is a great improvement. And not only that, I think that with the changes that you've made have made you happier in life, because that's what I've noticed is that your happiness is genuine at this point, as far as I can see.
Yeah,
Do
it
you
is.
agree? Yeah.
Absolutely. And like one of the things that going back to feeling unfulfilled before I made any changes, I would come home from working a, 10-hour day from sun up to sundown, behind chained to a desk all day long, working for somebody else's dream, right?
Mhm.
And I'd go home and I'd feel that unfulfillment. Well, what did I actually accomplish today? I was there, I was a body in a chair to receive a paycheck,
Mhm.
right? Because the work being done, aside from the work being done, because the work being done helps the company, right? I was managing a team of revenue analysts that our sole job was to tell leaders how they can make the company more money. And so I'd go home thinking, I didn't actually help anyone today, though. What did I do to help somebody today?
Mhm.
And that question, that burning, like, ugh, like it was like a branding iron on my back, like pushing me, like prodding me along like cattle,
Yeah.
because I thought of myself as cattle, ironically enough, in those days. And so, yeah, uh, I've never seen myself as a salesperson. I've had people in real estate tell me I'll never make it because I don't have a sales mentality, and I firmly disagree. You can make it in this industry with compassion and care and integrity, all of that. And
Mm.
so that's how I work with people who recognize that. I take on difficult situations like divorces. Um, Relocating to another state is a big deal. Having a baby, all these major milestones in people's lives I've been a part of. And that's amazing to me. And I can lay down at night and be like, wow, I feel good about myself for, they're happy, therefore I'm happy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that people seem to miss out on is that when you help other people um, to improve or
Hmm.
even to make them feel seen and heard, even if it's something small, you actually grow and you actually become a little bit more, I don't want to say perfected, but um, you just you become a better person, in just serving someone else by helping
Yeah.
them out, with whatever it is.
Right.
I find that with this podcast that when I've talked to certain people, is some of them have really deep issues, and I think how grateful I am to live in also a comfort zone where I've built that comfort zone for myself. You know,
Hmm.
I changed by setting a goal to create a podcast, setting a goal to stay consistent with it. And
Hmm.
I feel the same like you. When I lay down at night, I think, did I actually help anyone today? Did
Hmm.
I actually say anything that made a difference? Sometimes I feel like I don't. Sometimes I feel like, you know, uh, I didn't really do anything. I played the trad wife scenario today. I did all my wifely duties of cleaning the
Right.
house, doing the laundry, all these things that really and truly, if a hurricane came through, what are you going to save? You're not going to take anything with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you will take your soul with you at the end of this life, and what have you done with it, you know?
Mhm.
And so, like I was going to ask you before, what I normally do with most of my guests who are willing to,
Mhm.
um, I challenge them for this following week or this upcoming week. Um, I give them a challenge according to what we've talked about. And so, and you don't have to be accountable to me. You don't have to let me know, hey, I did this challenge and it went great or it didn't go great at all or whatever. It's for your own personal growth. And so, in listening to everything that you've said, I want you to think about an actual person this week that you know personally. And I want you to give them a boost of confidence in however you feel that will be sensible, empathetic, and helpful to them.
Mhm.
Um, and not trying to place any judgment on them.
Mhm.
Not say this is out of pity, not say this is, you know, it could just be just, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while and I want to check in with you and listen to what struggle they are having, and whether it be giving them a note, mailing, sometimes even mailing a note, like in the 1900s when we
People love the
usually,
mail. They love
yeah,
getting stuff in the
yeah,
mail.
you know, um, but say something encouraging to them about themselves that you see that shines out of them. So like, because a lot of people's light is so dim,
Yeah.
especially these days in this country, the way things are going around the world, and especially in
Yeah.
this country right now.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people feel alone. You know, they feel like nobody hears what I have to say. Nobody's gonna care what I have to say or how I feel.
Mhm.
So just because I've noticed how high of a mountain you have climbed, I mean, I'm just so put back by the improvements you've made. I'm so proud of the person that you've become. I've always been proud of you because I've always seen potential in you, but you were in certain circumstances kind of like you said, you didn't want to rock the boat, you didn't want to make the changes. It
Mhm.
felt comfortable, you know, you didn't want to cause any issues. Um, but I also saw great potential in you. And so if you could do that for somebody this week or next week, whenever you have the time,
Oh yeah.
reach out to somebody who would not expect to hear from you and give them a vote of confidence, give them a vote of basically show them a little love and
Challenge
kindness,
accepted.
you know, because there are people out there who may want to be like you and follow your example. Not necessarily like you in the sense
Yeah.
that they want to copy your life,
No, I know
but
what you mean.
but we are truly, everyone is an example
Mhm.
of either good and kindness or negativity or self-doubt,
Yeah.
which causes a lot of pain to a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
So we have to choose who we want to be, right?
Absolutely.
Which side
And
of the line.
I appreciate your words like very much, because I received those sort of messages from certain people at critical points, and it truly did. It helps because when you're, even if they didn't even know that my light was dim, they just, oh, Nicole's fine. She's always been fine. That's kind of the general consensus among people in my life is, oh, she'll be fine. She'll figure it out. And it's like, no, I have really dark days sometimes too. I'm human. And so
Yeah.
I myself have received messages like you're referring to on this challenge, and I already have a list of like 12 people in my head that I want to reach out to, like right this second.
Yeah.
So I will absolutely be doing that and paying it forward.
And um try not to pick the easy ones. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because
Hmm.
it's very difficult. I mean, it's very easy to service those people that we love.
Hmm.
But the people that we feel less connection with, less empathy with, those people are harder to serve, right?
Hmm.
Because sometimes they're not ready to receive your kind message.
Yeah.
But it's not, the point is not whether they receive it. The point is that you gave it,
Hmm.
you know. And so I want you to pick somebody who's not so easy, you
Okay.
know, whether it be
Yeah.
family or a friend or a coworker or whoever. But
Yep.
and don't expect a response from that person. Try not to expect a response. Just put it out there as a word of kindness, as an act of kindness, as an act of love and service.
Hmm.
And I can promise you that your light will shine even brighter after you do it. And it's
Okay.
actually helping you even more,
Yeah.
you know. So if you can do
Yeah.
that, that would be great. And
Absolutely.
and I appreciate your time with me today. I know that your time is extremely valuable and sometimes expensive, but I really appreciate you being a guest on the podcast. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while, and I'm gr- I'm I'm very proud of who you are and who you've become, and the success that you've made with your career, the success that you've made with your relationships, and just your life choices altogether.
Yeah.
Um, and
Thank you.
I can honestly say that you're a real one, you know. And anyone who gets to know you on a personal level is a very fortunate soul to know you. And
That means a lot. Thank you so much.
and I hope that you have a healthy, happy rest of your day, and that you have a fantastic weekend. And if you ever feel the need to come back and discuss other issues, I would welcome you with open arms,
Yeah.
because you know we all struggle with different things at different times, and sometimes we just need, you know, some coping skills to help us out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, voice of reason. And I'm not saying I'm all of those things, but I can certainly try.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody were to comment on anything with today's discussion and wants to go deeper on stuff, talk about those harder times, we can absolutely dig into that kind of thing. I'm very, very open. I'm not a closed book. I'm very open. So
Well,
I'm up for that.
that's very encouraging to hear, and
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And thanks again.
All
And
right. Thank you. It was my
we'll
pleasure.
yeah, we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Bye bye. And so I want to thank Nicole for her great positive look on life. We a lot of times don't get to feel the positiveness. We don't get to feel the positivity, I mean. And it's tough to get on that path. It is a hard thing to do, but we have to learn ourselves that we can do hard things, um, with the help of others. And it's okay to ask for help sometimes because, like Nicole said, life humbled her many times. And sometimes we need that humbleness in order to grow. And then once we grow, then we want to help others to grow as well. We don't, let's not hoard that growth within us. Let's not hoard the kindness. Let's not keep it all together inside just us. We do want to keep our self love and our self care, but we also want to spread the kindness, spread the joy, spread self worth, spread anything that will help your neighbor, your friend, your difficult friends, your people that you normally would not reach out to, that person is the one person that will feel that example from you. And you never know who will end up being your friend, even a best friend. Sorry about that. Even a best friend. Sometimes you think they're your greatest enemy, but in getting to know and to dig deeper to know them, they may end up being your best friend. So, with those words today, I just want to leave you with that and also welcome you to Yourself.Podcast if you'd like to be a guest and discuss any challenge that you may be fighting or have conquered and you would like to help others in doing so, or if you're looking for new coping skills that maybe have not worked for you in therapy or are afraid to try therapy and would rather have a casual conversation about how to reach new coping skills. We're here to listen. We're not here to judge. This is a safe space for everyone. And we'd like to thank all of our listeners, all of those who take time to watch the podcast and take something away from it in a positive way. We'd like to thank all of you. And once again, you can reach us at Yourself.Podcast on TikTok and Instagram. And here on YouTube, you can leave us a comment on something that you would like to listen to or be a part of. And we will get to you. And as always, this is Dre, and that's a wrap.